welcome to my channel on the Best of Fantasy 2024 is rapidly coming to a close, and that means it is time for me to share with you my plans for the channel in 2025. But I would like to first begin with a tremendous thank you to all of you who have supported this channel, and that includes whether it be someone who has just watched videos or subscribed to the channel, liked the videos, left comments. I deeply appreciate each and every one of you. And I also want to thank you for supporting the Adan trilogy, the story that I took nearly 2 decades to craft and is out there in the world. And I can't tell you how fulfilling it is to me, how grateful I am that there are readers out there, people who have responded to this story, whether it be in the ebook or in the paperback or in the brand new audiobook. The first book, The Way of Adan, has its audiobook as narrated by the brilliant Alan from the Library of Alexandria. We've gotten just tremendously positive feedback on that performance. But also there is a special edition coming out of The Way of Adan, available through the Broken Binding, and I can't tell you how thrilled I am about that. So if you're anyone who has supported those in any way whatsoever, thank you so much. I deeply appreciate it. I don't have a Patreon here for the channel, so buying those books is a way to show support for what I do here, especially if you think you would enjoy an epic fantasy trilogy that includes a holy war with some very realistic descriptions of violence and plenty of grimness, but also a transcendent magic with an exploration of hope and compassion and connection. I will continue to shout about the upcoming releases, the Prophet of Adan and the Return to Adan special editions and the audiobooks as they come out early next year. And also I am going to be getting out that sequel to the trilogy, While Darkness Gathers. So I'll be shouting about all these things in the year to come. In the meantime, though, what am I going to be reading for the channel? I'm excited to talk about all this stuff, and as usual, I am being highly aspirational with my plans. I told myself a million times I was going to be realistic with this, but I kept seeing the piles of books getting higher and higher, which I'm about to share with you. I think I could get through a lot of these. Let's see. Let's see what 2025 brings. But I do need to prioritize my writing a little more than I have been. So I did try to be a little more realistic with my reading goals for 2025. But I will be continuing. Let's start with some manga. I will, of course, be continuing with One Piece. That has been such a joy, such a delight, just a beautiful experience for me so far. I'm about that halfway point through the series, and I do hope to catch up in 2025 and be current. And I plan to continue reading and sharing my thoughts on the various chapters as they come out. So that might be a weekly thing, who knows? But I will definitely be continuing with One Piece until it ends. And then maybe even, I'm sure people will still want to talk about One Piece. But I will also, after One Piece, current, when I get current with it, I do plan to read some more manga. And I have decided that I will probably start with Akira. I'd like to go back to, I'm somebody who likes the origins, that kind of stuff. So I really want to understand where manga comes from. And I think that reading Akira would be a great way to do that. And I've been encouraged to do so by a few people who've left comments. I get lots of recommendations, and I appreciate all of them. And eventually I hope to read all of them. But I'm going to start with Akira. And then Akira is relatively short, especially compared to One Piece. So I will follow that up with probably I'll give Berserk a try. Now, Berserk is probably the most recommended manga I get, and I'm eager to give it a shot. I know that it's really kind of bleak and can be very upsetting in terms of some of the stuff that happens, I've heard. But I do want to give it a shot because it gets a lot of praise. And there must be something there. So I'm going to try Berserk after Akira. And after that, I do have other manga on my short list, but I don't know the order yet. So that's as far as I figured out what I'm going to do. And I probably would get to, if I think Akira is short enough where I think I'll get to Berserk, at least to start it, maybe in the tail end of 2025. So, in terms of books and series, my goodness, here we go. So, I'm going to start with the ones that I am continuing with, and some of these are involving collaborations that I'm doing, and I'll try to remember to talk about who I'm collaborating with here. And I love my collaborations. That's something that I hope to continue to do here on BookTube, though I probably should be a little smarter and I should probably learn to say no occasionally because I am a bit overwhelmed with all the collaborations I've done, to be honest with you, and I need to be a little wiser. So I hate saying no, especially when I really want to read the books and I really love the people that I would be reading them with. But I have to limit myself somehow or other. But let's continue with the ones that I am going to be doing. And so let's start, though. This is not a collaboration, but something I want to do for myself for a long time. And I think I'll be done with this actually before the end of this month, before the end of December. Maybe the video that I'm going to make will be out in early January, though, so I'm including it here. But yeah, I'm going to finish the Earthsea series, meaning I'm going to finish. I've read the first four. Actually, I grew up reading the first four a lot. Never read the fifth book. Never read the shorter stories. So now I'm going to do that. I'm going to read the short stories, the Tales of Earthsea, and I'm going to read the fifth novel, the final novel in the Earthsea series, The Other Wind. And I plan to make a video, a kind of a guide to Earthsea after I have done that. So I'm really excited to finally finish everything Earthsea and share my thoughts and how much I love this series and what it means to me. And then I will be finishing probably in January, this book right here, The Great Ordeal, the third book in the Aspect Emperor series, or the sixth book in the Second Apocalypse series overall, which includes the initial trilogy, Prince of Nothing, and the tetralogy, the Aspect Emperor. Yeah, I'm just finishing this one up right now, actually, and I'll be talking with Joanna about it. I've been talking with her about the Aspect Emperor series. And I will finish the final book, The Unholy Consult, in probably January or definitely early in 2025. So that should be, not too difficult to accomplish. And that's a major priority because I've been talking about it with Joanna and I'm completely blown away by Baker's genius. I also find it to be one of the bleakest reads I've ever encountered, and I find it fascinating because of Baker's exploration of such themes as free will and his answers, or I don't know if you could call them answers, because he is definitely an author who is shy about certainty. He's always warning about certainty, but the story seems to be siphoning the reader toward a conclusion. At least at this point, I feel that we probably don't have free will. That is part of the bleakness, really, of it. In contrast to that bleakness, you have the beauty and the wonder, and yes, there's plenty of trauma and all kinds of action and turmoil in the Wars of Light and Shadow, but that transcendent beauty really, I think, is a counterbalance to that. And I am so excited to be continuing with the Wars of Light and Shadow by Janny Wirtz in 2025. I hope to finish the Traders, not actually in December again, but I will be continuing the series. This is book 7 of 11 in the Wars of Light and Shadow. So I will be finishing books 8 through 11 in 2025. I'd also like to read the rest of the novellas that Janny Wirtz has written in that world. And I have read The Gallant, but I haven't read the others yet. And I'd love to read everything that she has written in this tremendous, beautiful world. And then, of course, I do need to, at some point, though I missed the bandwagon, I need to finish, I want to finish the rest of the Stormlight Archive, at least this first arc, the first 5 books in the Stormlight Archive. And that means I need to read Rhythm of War. And I have a feeling that Rhythm of War is not going to be my favorite, just because the thing that I don't enjoy as much, that many fans love, and Sanderson is brilliant at delivering, is that complex magic system, the hard magic, where it's as much a part of the story as anything else, figuring out how the magic works and all of that. And I tend to be more enamored with the older style, where magic is mysterious and full of wonder, and not something that you sort of dissect throughout the course of the story to figure out how it works. But I do want to read the Stormlight Archive. I really enjoyed the first 2 books. And I have a feeling maybe based on what I'm hearing, the spoiler-free stuff anyway, about the fifth book, Wind and Truth, which everyone in the entire universe is reading at this moment, if they haven't finished already. I have a feeling that I probably will enjoy that fifth book, especially if it's more like books 1 and 2 than it is like books 3 and 4. So let's see. But I definitely want to get that done at some point in 2025. Another series that I'm actually nearly current with is The Bound and the Broken. So I finished the third big book of War and Ruin, and now I only have this one little novella to read, The Ice, which I am excited to have. It actually makes me happy that I still have something to read by Ryan Cahill in this world, the world of The Bound and the Broken. And I'm excited for the next book, book 4. I think it's called Of Empires and Dust. And then there's going to be a book 5. So I will be among the war band that is waiting for book 4 whenever that might come out. But in the meantime, I will have The Ice to read as a little treat for myself. And I really did enjoy Of War and Ruin a lot. I felt like that was Ryan Cahill's absolute best, for sure, up to this point in The Bound and the Broken. And I'm excited to read Of Empires and Dust. So that's an easy one to keep up with. I've always treated these as palate cleansers, though I haven't read a ton of these books yet, but I would love to be further into Discworld. I've only actually read 4 Discworld books so far. The Color of Magic, The Light Fantastic, and I read Guards, and the first of the Witch books, which would be Equal Rights. So now I want to read a Mort book. And I also want to, in 2025, get further into some of those other series, the Guards, the Night Watch, whatever, not Night Watch, but the City Watch, I think, series, but also the Witch series. I want to get further into that as well. But yeah, I just want to read more Pratchett, really. And I probably will continue to treat those as palate cleansers, though. As I probably will do with the Dresden Files. I have only gotten through the first 7 Dresden Files books, and that's been over the course of the last, 3-4 years. So I've been going very slowly, using them as palate cleansers. And I really loved the 7th book. Deadbeat was the best so far. But I'm told by the fans of Dresden Files that it gets even better. I haven't quite hit that point where I feel like I have to keep going in the series, and I'm told that could happen, that it'll build a certain momentum as it gets more epic and as the series becomes less episode of the week and more, or monster of the week, and more like a continuous tale. So once I get there, maybe I won't be able to treat those as palate cleansers anymore, and I'll have to get through and catch up with everyone else. But for the moment, I'm still going to treat the Dresden Files as kind of a palate cleanser thing. A series that I'm definitely going to jump on as soon as book 3 is out is the Library Trilogy, which begins with The Book That Wouldn't Burn. As soon as book 3 is out, I'm going to leap on it and read it. I'm so excited. Mark Lawrence's trilogies have all been a hit for me, but I do feel that the Library Trilogy, if he sticks the landing, is going to be my very favorite thing he's ever written, and I'm very excited to read that. So yeah, I will. That's a definite. The moment it's out, I want to be reading book 3 of the Library Trilogy. The Book That Held Her Heart, I believe, is the title of that one. I'm very excited to read that. And also, I do hope to continue. I've read, this will be the 4th trilogy of Mark Lawrence's that I have completed. He has a couple others out there that I haven't yet read, and I do want to read those as well. I want to read everything he's written because, as I said, every trilogy by Mark Lawrence has been a hit for me. He just strikes that balance between a writer who makes me turn the pages really fast, but also provokes thought, and I love that about Mark Lawrence. He hits that sweet spot somehow every time, and I absolutely admire that. Another series that I'm going to continue with is the Raghav Rita. I'm not sure how you say that. It's an R with a dot under it and a T and an A. So if Gaurav, if you watch this, you can correct my pronunciation. But anyway, begins with the Sons of Darkness, which I read and enjoyed very much. And Dance of Shadows is going to be coming out, and I'm keen to continue in this South Asian grimdark series and see what Gaurav Mohanty comes up with next in this. And he and I have some of the same influences for sure in terms of our writing. He's a big Malazan fan, a big First Law fan, Song of Ice and Fire, So those are some of the obvious influences you'll see in there, plus the Mahabharata, which is, the greatest epic ever told, and that is sort of the foundation of the Rag of Vrita. But he puts a very interesting twist, a grimdark twist on the story. So I'll be interested to see what he does. Another series that I'm a little embarrassed to say I've only read the first Dune book. And so I, at some point, need to rectify this, and I would like to continue reading Dune, at least Dune Messiah and the next book, Children of Dune, I think is the next one. But anyway, the first three at the very least. And then let's see, I may just get hooked and want to read all of the Frank Herbert Dune books. So let's see. But I definitely want to continue. I noticed this one is actually a lot shorter than book one, so that's good. That's definitely more incentive to jump on that. So what am I going to start in 2025? Well, there's a ton. I have two more huge piles. This is going to be a long video. I'm sorry. I'm definitely going to maybe my first book of 2025, actually. I want to read some Anna Smith Spark, and it's going to be A Sword of Bronze and Ashes. I also have A Woman of the Sword, another standalone by her that I want to read, and I've heard everything I hear about Anna Smith Sparks books makes me think that I'm going to love them. So I'm really excited to start reading A Sword of Bronze and Ashes. And then a definite series I'm going to start, and I'm going to be collaborating with Joanna again on, is The Grace of Kings. Probably after we finish the second Apocalypse, we're going to jump into the Grace of Kings. Dandelion Dynasty is the series. First book, Grace of Kings. Ken Liu is the author. I've heard lots of things about this series that make me think I'm going to really vibe with Ken Liu's writing. And I'm excited to jump onto that. Also need to get on this bandwagon. Empire of Silence, first book in Sun Eater. I definitely want to be... I don't read a ton of science fiction, though I know this is more the space opera or fantasy-oriented type of science fiction. And I know that Christopher Rocchio has read a lot of the same books and admires a lot of the same books. Just there was Dune a moment ago. Also, I think he's a Book of the New Sun fan, among others. So I'm excited to see what this is all about here. And I will begin at some point in 2025. I'm not exactly sure what month yet, but I definitely want to jump into the Sun Eater series. And how about this? How about some Guy Gavriel Kay? I have so much more to do in terms of my fantasy reading, and this is one of the biggest gaps, I feel. I have actually read Tigana. It's the only book by Kay that I have read, and that was a long time ago. So I'm going to reread Tigana, and then I'm going to just spoil myself by reading more of Kay's books. And I don't know the order that I'm going to take them in yet, but I'm going to consider that. And I wanted 2025 to be kind of my year of Guy Gavriel Kay books. Considering all the other stuff I'm going to read, I don't know how many of them I'm actually going to get in. But if I get hooked, I'm going to just keep prioritizing Guy Gavriel Kay books. Whatever else happens. Another writer that I read a long time ago and want to reread is Tad Williams and the Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn trilogy. I loved it when I read it. It's been so long, though. I feel like I'm definitely due for a reread. And I also would like to continue in the Austin Ard books that he's written. I know he's written more in the meantime. And I think he recently came out with one even. I need to get further into Tad Williams' Austin Ard books after I return to Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn. I just love his writing, actually. Probably had more influence on my own writing than I even realized, to be honest with you, because I did read Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn before I even started writing. What else am I going to be getting into? Well, I'm going to do a reread of Book of the New Sun. I forgot to get that out for some reason, but here's my Gene Wolfe Book of the New Sun. Bam. And I'm going to do a reread of this. And I've been forgetting to say who I'm reading all these books with, but this one's going to be with John from Talking Story and a crew that he is assembling, including, I think, Christopher Rocchio as well, who is a huge fan of Book of the New Sun. I read this already relatively recently, but with Book of the New Sun, it's like the first time you read it, you're just getting yourself ready for the reread almost. There's just so much in here that I know went over my head And I'm not probably going to get it all on the second read, but I think more things will click into place the second time around. So I'm actually excited to do this as a reread. Sort of like what happened with me with Malazan. I read it the first time and I knew, wow, this is brilliant, but I need to reread it in order to really soak it in. And I feel like that is going to be the case here as well. I'm hoping, anyway, that I will appreciate it even more the second time through and connect more as well. Because the first time through, to be honest with you, with Book of the New Sun, not Malazan, but with Book of the New Sun, I didn't feel a ton of connection to the characters. Really, there's only one character I felt like I could have possibly gotten connected to, and he's kind of a jerk. So I didn't feel terribly connected, but let's see. Let's see what happens this time around. I'm definitely open to that happening. And what else am I doing here? There's so much more. There's Octavia Butler. I read Parable of the Sower this year. Great year to read Parable of the Sower because it's set. It begins in 2024. But I want to continue reading more by her. I don't know if I'll read the sequel to this first, or I'm actually kind of more tempted, honestly, to read Kindred. And I am going to be excited to read more by Octavia Butler. The Parable of the Sower absolutely is gut-wrenching and beautiful and just spoke to me in so many ways that I feel like it's a very important book as well in terms of the themes that it deals with being relevant to the present. So I'm excited to see what else Octavia Butler wrote. Another author that I actually read in 2024 is Simon Jimenez. I read The Vanished Birds, and now I would like to read The Spear Cuts Through Water. And this is a book given to me by Evie, and I'm excited to read another book by her favorite author, because I did enjoy The Vanished Birds a lot. And based on what I've heard about The Spear Cuts Through Water, I think I'll enjoy this one even more. So let's see what it brings. And I mentioned Le Guin earlier. I'm going to be finishing her Earthsea books, and then I'm going to move on to her science fiction. I do want to read the Hainish novels, particularly The Left Hand of Darkness and The Dispossessed. And if I love them, maybe I'll read the rest. I have this collection of hers, of her work. It's got actually stories as well as some essays and such. So I'm really excited. I think Le Guin is an absolute gem, a pillar of the genre of science fiction and fantasy, and I have adored her Earthsea books since I was very young. So I'm excited to read more of her stuff. What else have I'm going to be reading The Devils. I don't have a copy of it, but Joe Abercrombie is a favorite for me. I love the First Law series. I'm current, everything First Law I've got under my belt. And someday probably do another reread of First Law. But I am excited for The Devils to see what he does with that. Based on what I've heard, again, I think I'm going to love it. And I've also got a series that Michael Miller sent me these beautiful books, the Songs of Chaos series, beginning with Ascendant. And having really enjoyed Ryan Cahill's series, I thought, well, maybe we'll try another Dragon Rider series. So I want to see what Michael Miller is up to here in his series. And yeah, and based on what I've heard about it as well, I think it could be a lot of fun. So I look forward to that. Another series that I want to finish in 2025 is the Gormenghast trilogy. I have this, it's all 3 books here in this brick, and I hear amazing things. Again, this is a big gap for me in my SFF reading, I suppose. This one probably is more like gothic fiction, but you know, if we're defining it in a broad way, we'll throw it into fantasy. But yes, I'm excited to finally read this because I've heard such things about his prose and his imagination and the weirdness of it all that make me think this is going to be a really important read for me. And a trilogy that I don't currently own, but I am fully committed to reading in 2025. I have said that if I don't read this trilogy, I will shut down my channel. And I can't do that. So I must read The Warlord Chronicles by Bernard Cornwell. And I am excited to do so because a lot of my friends here tell me that I'm going to enjoy that trilogy a lot. It's an Arthurian trilogy. And having just read The Last Kingdom, which is part of the Saxon series by Bernard Cornwell, I am confident that they are right, that I will most certainly enjoy that. I'd love to continue as well with the Saxon stories, but I'm committed to the Warlord Chronicles first. So once I finish that, maybe I'll get back to the Saxon stories, which is definitely my wheelhouse. And if anything Malazan comes out as well, I will definitely be picking that up. Malazan is my favorite series of all time. The Crippled God is my favorite book of all time. So if anything Erickson or Esselmont comes out in the Malazan world, I am definitely dropping everything and picking that up. If that happens in 2025, that would be wonderful, wouldn't it? I think most likely the next thing to come out that is Malazan would be the next book in the Witness series. So let's see. I have no idea, honestly, if that's coming in 2025 or not, but I think it won't be too far off if it's not 2025. And I also have some really exciting books that I'm going to be reading for SPFBO, since I am a judge for SPFBO, the Self-Published Fantasy Blog Off. This is the contest that was started by Mark Lawrence to shine a light on self-published fantasy. Yes, I'm going to be reading 9 of the 10 finalists because I, with the help of my team, put forward one of the finalists. So yes, one of the 10 finalists is Tana. The Tenacious Tale of Tana, the Tender Sword, that's the full title. I think of it very affectionately as Tana. But yes, that is going to be a lot of fun to read the other 9 finalists for the contest. And the one that gets the highest ratings from all the judges is going to win SPFBO 10 or Spiff Box. So I'm really excited to be reading those self-published fantasies and finding some gems, because that is what SPFBO is all about. There are some pretty well-known books from the past years that have won the contest or gotten to be finalists or even semifinalists that have gone on to be very successful books. So it is a contest to look out for if you are looking for some creative and new approaches to the fantasy genre. And in addition to the SPFBO self-published fantasy, I have some other self-published fantasy that I want to get to. Now, I've had to say at this point, I cannot accept more books from authors simply because I have such a backlog of books that I need to read and feel bad about not having read. I feel good in the sense that I am a judge for SPFBO and I read a lot of self-published fantasy now because of that. But I had these books that were given to me before I became a judge, and I want to get to more and more of them. And so here are some of the series that I started and I'm committed to finishing. One is the Sundered Nation trilogy by Von Roycroft. His 3rd book will be coming out in 2025, and this is some of my favorite self-published fantasy I've ever read. The Severing Sun is the first book in the trilogy. Book 2 was even better than the first book, and look at the gorgeous cover. I highly encourage people to pick up the Sundered Nation trilogy. It's Romans meets Goths in a fantasy setting. Just brilliant stuff. And also another series that I started and I'm committed to reading is P.L. Stewart's just fantastic, reminiscent of the epics, especially the Aeneid. The first book was for me, at any rate. The first book in the Drowned Kingdom saga, which is called A Drowned Kingdom. I want to read the 2nd book, The Last of the Atalanteans. I'd love to read it actually fairly soon. So let's see if I can get to that. But P.L. Stewart is one of the kindest human beings you will ever meet, as well as a talented author. And I highly recommend you check out A Drowned Kingdom. And I need to get going because he's putting out a book a year here in this 7-book series. And I think book 5 will be out in 2025. So I need to move along here and get caught up. Another one that's been... I'm ashamed of how long I have let this linger, but I loved the first book, In Ash and Sand by Richard Nell, and I need to get on with it and finish this trilogy. The first book, it was just some of the best grimdark I've come across, actually. Just really good stuff. Kings of Paradise, one of the most iconic grimdark characters you will ever see in that book, and that character is someone I need to revisit. Or will be revisiting my nightmares, probably. But yeah, no, Kings of Ash, I'm excited to get to, and also the 3rd book, and get on with this really tremendous trilogy. Richard Nell is I think, justly talked about as one of the most talented self-published authors you can come across. Another one I want to get to, I'm so eager to get to this. I have seen writing by Micah Harris, and I am convinced that this is going to be a brilliant book. It's called The World Queen Awakens. You can see some of the comic book influence here on the cover. So he is definitely a fan of comics, but he has this book that I am really excited to delve into and find out just how brilliant he is as an author. Some World Queen Awakens. And then there's also another one here. I'm not going to have all of them that I need to get to because I won't get to all of them in 2025, but another one I want to get to relatively soon is The Exile of Zanzibar by Daniel Maidman. I hear great praise for this as well. Another one, here we go, Gregory Contaxis, The Return of the Knights. Just another fantastic human being. I'm so excited. This was originally written in Greek, so I'm excited to see what a Greek fantasy author does. And I think he has some big beasties on the covers of the subsequent books in the series. So it looks very exciting to me. And here's one that looks whimsical, and I really want to try it so much. It's called The Garden Gnome by Jeff McIntyre. I just have so many of these that I want to get to. I hear a lot of praise for Curse of the Fallen by H.C. Newell. And I'm excited to get to this as well based on what I hear. And how about Heliotrope by Palmer Pickering? Palmer is another just wonderful person, incredibly supportive author in the self-published fantasy community, and seems like such an intelligent person as well. And I have a feeling that her writing is going to really jive with me. So yeah, the Heliotrope. So yeah, these are just a few of the self-published books that I really want to get to in 2025. Let's see how I do. That's not ambitious, right? That's for a whole year. So I'm going to be getting myself into some trouble here. But it's a good kind of trouble, isn't it? That's the kind of trouble we like around here. But what else am I doing on the channel besides reading and talking about books? Well, I'm going to probably come up with some ideas for some lectures. I really enjoy occasionally talking about fantasy as a genre, where we're going, and what has come before, how we got here. But I really enjoy those lectures, and maybe reacting to an essay by an author or someone who is a student of fantasy, something of that nature. I may watch a TV series or two and talk with my nemesis, a critical dragon, about them. We have been doing Rings of Power and Wheel of Time, the TV series, the two most popular fantasy series on television. Uh, so we can we get a little bit of flack when we make those videos, but we have fun talking about those series. Of course, I'm going to continue with Dear Dr. Fantasy. It is, I'll be honest, not the most watched of my videos when I put out an episode of Dear Dr. Fantasy, but I just love connecting with my fellow booktubers and authors and fantasy lovers in that way. So I'm going to continue doing it. Maybe I'll try to think of ways to make it more interesting for the audience. I don't know. I'm kind of the dinosaur around here. I just record those. I don't do them as a live stream because I prefer to focus entirely on my guest. And I'm really bad at multitasking and paying attention to the people in the chat and the person that I'm trying to get to know. So I don't know. I don't know what I'll do about that because, yeah, it would be nice to have the part of the reason I do Dear Dr. Fantasy is to help out my fellow booktubers and get to shine a spotlight on them. And if fewer people are watching, then I'm not achieving that goal. So let's see what I'll do. I would love it for more people to watch those episodes because these are lovely people I'm getting to talk to. So let's see. It's kind of my responsibility to figure out how I can do that. But yeah, if I do it as a live stream, I'll just have to get better at that. And I do feel also that I feel terrible if I don't highlight some of the comments as we're going along. I just think that if somebody is in the chat and is trying to be part of this, and I've invited them to be part of it by having it as a live stream, then I'm kind of obligated to highlight some of the comments as I'm going through. So I'll have to find a balance. I'll have to find a balance for that if I go the live stream route there and catch up with the kids these days. But I will continue with Dear Dr. Fantasy one way or another. And then, of course, there's the Quilluminati. This has been one of the my favorite things that I've done on BookTube, and being part of a little book club here with my friends Brian and John and Mike, and getting to talk with them about some surprises, really. I mean, we just pick fairly, I mean, for us anyway, so far, most of them have actually been outside of the fantasy genre. So it's fun to sometimes do something different. So yeah, we all of them actually have been outside the fantasy genre, and the next one is going to be kind of a murder. book. Last one before that was a historical fiction. So yeah, we've been basically trying out different stuff. It's a great way to do that and chat about it with friends. So I'm so looking forward to the Quilluminati in 2025 and being part of that and celebrating books with my friends, which is what we do around here. That is what we do best. We celebrate books with all the crazy people who are just as passionate as we are. So thank you once again. Thank you. My apologies for this very long video. At least I'm talking about books. And it's just great to be here. It's great to be here, to be part of this community, to experience the fellowship that comes with reading and talking about stories and learning from each other. That is just the best thing ever. So I am so grateful to all of you. And that is it for me for now. Until next time.